You're watching The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales. Streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
2, 1.
Hi everybody, how is everyone doing? I know that for most of the country it has started to look a little bit more like fall and less like the surface of the sun. So welcome everybody to what fall looks like from now on. I even have an extra layer on. I hope you guys have a little bit of chill in your air and it wasn't too terrible of weather this weekend. There were lots of conventions around the country, and this weekend, everyone's ramping up for New York Comic Con. Everyone is very, very excited about it. I've seen already news dropping. Looks like there were 4 announcements from Dynamite Comics today, and a bunch of other ones have kind of like dropped some hints, like Vault Comics just released their next year's stable of creators for all of their titles that are coming out. I know Distillery's been dropping stuff. Stay on social media because that's where you're gonna see all that stuff, and stay tuned to The Experience because Dan's probably gonna be talking about that during his shows, so you guys can keep up with all that. I will try to also keep you guys in the know. But I am today for Talking Shop going to be talking to an awesome creator, Scott, who he and his amazing creator pal Eric did this great book called White Savior. And we're going to talk about what it's like to have it all together as a graphic novel, what it means, and what's coming up next for them. I will see you guys right after these words. Everybody, this is the Talkin Shop show here on The Experience. Now's your chance to do your likes and your thumbs up and ring that bell, turn on your notifications so you can always know when we're coming on, and subscribe on YouTube. It helps us out a lot, and it also lets other people know that this is a cool place to come and find out stuff about comic books and other pop culture things. All right, everybody, welcome Scott on.
Thank you for having me. Good to be here. Why not?
I made it through the opening, and I don't think I made but maybe 5 mistakes. Yay!
Oh, no problem. I plan on making a lot of mistakes in the next couple minutes, so yours will seem like nothing in comparison.
I'm actually kind of, I don't know how I could have done this if I was going to New York, because I was actually slated to do New York, and then back to back to another convention that was here that following weekend. So I gave up New York, and then the convention that was supposed to be the weekend after is now delayed. So I could have gone to New York. Duh!
It's okay. Their pizza's overrated. I hear the pizza in Chicago is exponentially better. Not that I'm biased being from Chicago or anything like that.
Okay, I will. You can brag about pie in Chicago all you want because I lived there for 2 years, and I will say, although I didn't like deep dishes in my thing, there's a whole bunch of other forms of awesome pizza there and great places to go eat it, including Lou Malnati's.
Lou Malnati's, oh yeah, you can't go wrong with that. I've had my fair share. So
and then there's a place I can't remember the name of it, but it was out Evanston way. It was kind of like off the beaten path, but it really did feel like anything could happen in the kitchen. It was a magical place with really good food. I need to track it back down.
We Chicagoans like to pretend like we have a big grudge against New York. It's just fun. It's just fun.
I think the difference, honestly, is that New York pizza is built to survive just getting grabbed off of a cart or just out of a bodega and folded and walking around with. I called it folding pie. And so it's important that it doesn't, fall out of one end or the other. And there's different things to consider, right?
Yeah.
How long have you been a Chicagoan?
Well, so I grew up in Chicago, but lived in Southern California for a while. And we just bought a house in Dallas. And so I'll be moving to Dallas in a couple weeks. I'm in Chicago and for now. And in a couple weeks, I'll have my first home in Dallas, all contingent on White Savior sales being through the roof. So we got to make sure to to get those up, or I lose the home. That's our sales pitch right there.
Oh,
Buy the
man.
book, or one of the creators loses a home. How about that? You
We're
never have
gonna
that in a
do
pitch
fast.
before, so I wanted to add that.
Okay, so White Savior, I like weirdly, I don't know if it's supposed to have been released this week, but we got ours last week, so we put them out. So don't tell anybody, but we've already had them on the rack.
Lips are sealed over here.
Release dates have become very odd things because it used to be a very specific, like everyone on the planet got them on the same day, and you showed up at Wednesday morning, you know, grabbed your books and sometimes stood there and read them and then had a chat with the store owner and anyone else that was reading their books while they're standing there.
Yeah.
Do you feel like for what you've seen for your release, was it a little harder to gauge what the response was because the release schedule wasn't always exactly right?
I think it was a combo of things with us. So this is my first interview without my partner Eric. He couldn't make it today. It feels like it's like a married couple. You don't have, your significant other. Usually it's me, probably the wife, and he's the husband, but that's neither here nor there. And so putting our book out, it's a little interesting because the title is obviously a head turner, White Savior. Not the easiest book for store owners to recommend because of that title. So for us, there's a little bit of trickiness on top of that.
You kidding me? It was the pitch. It was the pitch that sold it. Like every time I made the pitch, because it was so easy to.
Yeah.
Such an easy concept to understand. So yeah.
Thank you.
No controversy with us. It was just like, you know what this is about now.
Yeah. That's kind of the idea. Just a good time laughing about it. That's the White Savior book. So yeah, for us, it's my first published book, so nobody knows who I am. Even my parents were confused when they saw Scott Berman on the book. They're like, who is that? And Eric, I always say he's the best artist that if he was as much a salesman and a showman as me, he'd be right up there with McFarlane and Leafield and all those other artists that you've heard of. The only thing is Eric is such a humble, nice guy that he doesn't like promoting himself. He doesn't like talking about himself. He doesn't like promoting his books even. And I always say, Eric, if you did that, man, everybody would think you're the greatest in the world. So I just tell everybody he's the greatest in the world. But that being said, because of that, he doesn't necessarily have the following that some other books would have as well. So ours is a bit of a slower spiral, but it's been just gaining traction every day and getting more quotes and more people reading it and more people talking about it. We knew we weren't going to, come out with a bang or anything like that, but it's been steadily increasing. So that's been really, really nice.
Well, there's not a lot of people that can say their first book came out from a known publisher.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you guys can be your own hype train. It's okay.
That's the plan. It's hard being a hype train when the title of your book is White Savior and you're a white guy. It's really odd to be doing that. And the Google searches for me, it's just strange. Scott Berman, White Savior. It's so odd, but I just go at this point.
So your book has the same kind of the name recognition as another very controversial book, Strange Fruit, that came out maybe 10 years ago. And that one was the most gorgeous art. Is J.G. Jones art. And it took a long time for all of the issues to come out because it takes a long time to produce watercolor art like that. And of course, Strange Fruit is what they call people that have been hanged. And that's a horrible thing, but that was the draw to the book. So yeah. Did you have anybody, because of the name, completely misconstrue, misunderstand, like rip you apart on internet without having any knowledge, or did everyone be like, were they chill? Were they like, it's a comic book, it's got
everyone kind of understood it because of the whole point is to look further with the title. So everybody kind of saw the title, scratched their head a bit, and then they kind of saw the picture, and we kind of framed it so that once you see the cover, you kind of know what the book's about. It's kind of easy to see. You've got the crazy Tom Cruise-esque white guy with the arrow through his head, a la Steve Martin, and so you kind of understand the point. So it's been getting pretty good reactions in terms of that. Yeah, we haven't really had anybody, I guess, who you'd say would enjoy the plot kind of question it at all. They've all been pretty once they understand it, they've all kind of come on board and had the laugh right after we explain the plot. So it's been pretty good in that sense. We were a little worried, but yeah, there's really been no kind of pushback, so it's been rather nice.
That's awesome. Okay, so I will give my like 1 minute like synopsis of the way I remember the book being, because I only really I like to read the first issue like on the day it releases. So now I am probably 2 months out from that read. My recollection is that there was a white saber character who shows up and is doing the thing all white sabers do in movies and books, and they are trying to protect or save a culture that is not theirs, and they have no real business in being the savior of. But our main character, who is, I believe, biracial, yes.
He's a Japanese American.
Straight up Japanese American.
Straight up Japanese American.
He comes along to try to be like, save that fool from himself. Is that right?
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah. It's so funny. I have my rehearsed pitch. You have your rehearsed elevator pitch that you do 1,000 times, and every time you try to make it sound unique by emphasizing one word as opposed to the other, but it's the same thing every time. So yes, I would say that's very, very spot on. So the Japanese American, he's a modern day guy, and he time travels to feudal Japan, and that's where the white savior is doing his white saving, if you will. But he's an idiot, and so he tells terrible battle plans, and he inevitably is going to lead these people to death. And because the Japanese guy, American guy, is from the future, he knows all of this. And so he's trying to tell everybody, guys, this is crazy. Why would you follow this guy? But the townspeople, they believe in the prophecy and such. And so they are hesitant to believe our hero. And so our hero has to prove them all that the white savior is, in fact, in need of saving himself. Yes. There, that sounded like I made up words and didn't rehearse it a bunch of times.
Perfect. Yeah, that's got to be tough. I can remember, I don't know if you've gone to set up at a convention yet, but that was the thing when I was doing creating and showing up in the 90s, to try to not get bored of the pitch for yourself, even though you were super excited about what you're doing. But like the 15,000th person walked by the booth, and
yeah,
trying to get to stop and look at you in the eye for half a second so you can be like, this book is awesome, because usually once they actually heard the pitch, they were down for it, right?
Yeah.
So was that a problem? Did you ever in person be like, man, I can't say this one more time?
So that's not, unfortunately, for better or worse, I can talk until the end of time. So for me, it's not as much a problem. I had about 5 different variations of the same pitch that I would do depending on either my mood or the person I was talking to or anything like that. And sometimes I would just play around with different pitches just to relieve boredom a lot of the time in doing it. So yeah, I would put a different spin on it. And yeah,
you just start the pitch with like, do you want to read my controversial book?
I would usually say something like, hey, do you like comedy? Do you like to laugh, or something like that? I think the heavy emphasis on comedy that we have, I think sometimes people don't realize this is a straight up hysterically funny book, because a lot of times they'll think, oh, is it social commentary? It is all of that, but it's also just a hysterically funny Mel Brooks-esque jokes upon jokes upon jokes on the page. I think you'd be hard pressed to find any book out there that has as many jokes on the page as ours does. And so yes, you'll find many that are smarter than ours, no doubt about it. But when it comes to a joke per page ratio, you'd have to maybe look at some old Mad magazines in order to find something comparable.
I'm trying to think if I sent a message to Eric right after I read it, because I remember there was a page that I was just like, oh my Lord, you guys, this is so funny. I thought
Yeah,
it was
there's a
about
lot of those, so it's very possible.
their pancreas getting hurt or something. I can't remember.
Yeah, so there's one page, the first kind of a battle page. It's when you see the past and you see they're in the midst of a very heavy feudal Japan battle. And so this is kind of an interesting thing. When we wrote the book, um, we didn't kind of think of it in terms of issues. We thought of it as one book. And so the first issue is a little crazy, but the second, the third, the fourth issue, they ramp up the crazy to about a 10. The first issue is about a 1 or a 2. We ramp up to about a 10. But because of that, we kind of realized, okay, we need to make this first issue a little bit more crazy and zany. So we changed a lot of the dialogue and a lot of the, Eric had already drawn everything perfectly. And so we're like, we can just add humorous text boxes and things like that in order to prepare people for the insanity that's to come in the other issues. And so we have one page, it's a full-on battle page, and all the characters in there, one would say, oh, my esophagus, as he's getting slashed, and one would
That's my
say,
favorite page.
oh, my duodenum, oh, my larynx. And so we're just like, you know what?
And it's like chat between two like ruffians, right? They're not even main characters.
Yeah, it's just these random side characters on the side. We're just like, let's give them funny dialogue. Why not? And so it really helped, I think, the book in general as we did the next couple issues, because we're like, okay, now we got a hold of what to do with this thing. Let's rock and roll.
I kind of think you need to make just take the art, like a close-up piece of the art, as the guy has like his like face that he's getting like punched or whatever, that just has that quote on there. Oh, my duodenum.
Yeah, there's a lot of pages like that. So you definitely there's definitely a lot of screenshots that can be taken there.
Mm-hmm. I just want to say hi to our viewers. I want to say hi to Carlos. Thanks for the shout out, man. If anybody has any questions, this is totally an open-ended interview. So if you've got questions for Scott about the book, you should totally throw them out here, or just like what his process is.
Throw down.
I will ask what comes up next. I mean, do you already have something that's planned out? You got a pie in the sky if they would let me make anything I wanted?
So we've got a bunch of pies in the sky. So this is my first published book, but not the first book I've worked on. So I've got a bunch of them that I'm talking to various publishers, and I just want to see what I can do to make sure that, whatever I put out there gets the best stuff behind it. Eric's just basically said to me, Scott, whatever we work on, like, let's just do it. Eric's like, Eric has a bunch of ideas that we've thrown out. And so we do have a little bit of a dream book scenario we're throwing out there. Jimmy Woo from Marvel, a little secret agent. We would love to, we've already got a solid idea, and hopefully we'll lightsaber will get the ears of some people maybe at Marvel, and we'll get a little Jimmy Woo book going. I'd like to bring him into 2023. He's got a little side cameo in the movies, but we think there's a lot more that can be done with him and the Agents of Atlas and everything like that. So that's one of them. Another throw in the universe out there thing. I like to pick random obscure characters. There's one at DC called The Heckler. Yes.
I can envision the #1 copy right now.
Yes, and so I'd like to work on that character. And one of my favorites, Mark Russell, had him in one of his books as just a side character. He didn't do much; he was just kind of there. Mm-hmm. And so that's another dream book. But I'm still kind of looking to pitch and talk to people. It's weird because you talk to somebody and then 4 months later they follow up with you, and so it's not like as a today let's do it kind of thing as you'd like. But I guess that's just the nature of the business.
It really is. I think it keeps evolving too. Like, I think the most recent thing that I've kind of heard is that coming with a fully realized idea, and even more so a fully realized printed out book, lets them know that you know what you're doing, and that you're not they're not going to take you on and then like you're going to get the first issue done and then be like, oh, we have to have 2 months delay. It like tells
Yeah,
them
of
that
course.
you are professional, you planned it all out, you know what you're doing.
Yeah, that's the tricky part. So I've already got to read. So for a writer, it's a lot easier than an artist. You know, they'll never tell you that out loud. Most of the writers will say it's equal and everything, but no, it is so much easier for us. Uh, yeah, I can. I've already written most of the stuff, and I can bang it out as quick as possible. And yeah, and so I've worked with a bunch of other artists. I'm working on one with this guy Hugo Petrus is his name. He's drawn Justice League a couple years ago. He drew a couple issues. He's a phenomenal artist. For some reason, I wind up with humble, nice artists who don't like to promote themselves as much. I don't know why, but yeah, he's one. We're working on something called Echelon, and we're hoping to get that out there. But yeah, it's just a lot of waiting and going back and forth and saying, "Hey, remember me?" and stuff like that. Because I feel like a lot of the people you want to talk to are just inundated with people screaming at them all the time. Read my thing. So, yeah, hopefully, White Savior will make enough noise where it'll be a lot easier to get these responses.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to me. I talk to publishers a lot, and they'll tell me that they're amazed at how many people want to work with them, but also don't follow any of the instructions for how to submit things to them that are clearly laid out online.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a case. Yeah, it's like, but even Eric and I, we got lucky in that we did submit like White Savior to a bunch of places, and
Mm-hmm.
we didn't really hear many responses. And then somebody at Dark Horse, Eric had worked there before, reached out to Eric, and Eric's like, "Oh, by the way, I've got this book," and so like
Oh,
that's literally how we got in. So it's tricky because you're just never sure
mhm.
with what these submission processes, what will happen with them.
It
So
can't hurt to have some kind of connection,
oh yeah, without a doubt, yeah.
and that I
And
mean that's a lot of like legwork and just focus into doing that. It's connections with you can't say to yourself, okay, well this person's only working on Kickstarters right now because sometimes those folks have worked with tons of people in the industry, and it's like for every industry, it's like who you know and the connections are so important.
yeah, of course, yeah.
And talent, of course. You can't have just like stick figure theater. It doesn't work.
I'm proof that talent's really not that important. It's kind of marginal. As long as you got one person on the team who's talented, hey, you can do whatever.
Right. So how do you guys work together? Do you just like figure out the scripting yourself, and then you let Eric just like have free reign to use his expertise to get the art the way it is? Or you guys get together and talk through the whole process for the story?
So we got together to do like the initial story. So okay, this is gonna happen here. This scene by scene, this is what's gonna happen. Maybe a little bit of dialogue just to explain what's happening, and then Eric would just go and draw some badass stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
uh, and then he'd bring it to me, and we kind of go back and forth. I would throw jokes out like nobody's business. I would throw 10 jokes a page, and Eric would right on top of them. And the way Eric draws the story, it's so easy to tell the story. Like the the dialogue boxes, you can usually write whatever, and they'll kind of work. And
Mm-hmm.
so we just wanted to make it just a straight up make sure everything's funny, make sure the story we didn't have to worry about the story not making sense, if you will, because of Eric's, just his ability to tell the story via the page. And so yeah, and so we were just able to kind of go back and forth, throw down the jokes on the page. And I've often thought about great books out there with terrible writing, like great art
Sure.
that tells a great story with terrible writing. The best way of doing it is going back on some of those books and just rewriting them and keeping the same art but moving the boxes, having whatever. I just thought that would be a funny exercise maybe or something. If somebody ever goes, yeah, the art's great, but the writing was whatever. Okay, well, let's just change all the lettering on the page and rewrite it. And I just always thought that would be kind of funny or interesting to do. Or you have like an artist draw something and you have two writers write it based on the art. It could be an interesting ideas. And most importantly, for publishers, it would save them a lot of money because then they can put out multiple issues with the same art. I
wonder if that would work. It's like an actual experiment to have an entire book drawn by somebody of merit, and then hand it off and see how many different actual stories can come out of that same art.
Yeah.
That's a good experiment. I like that experiment, Scott.
I try every now and then. Every now and then I have a good idea or two.
Because I don't think that's ever been done. The only thing I can think of that was kind of related at all was when they did the why can't I think that kid's name? It's the not a Tarzan, the little kid, blonde-haired kid from Marvel.
Khazar? No.
Khazar, that's it.
Khazar.
I think they did a whole series that they kind of like they took a writer and an artist. They just took they're supposed to be like random in the hat and put them together, and each pairing wrote an issue, and then they handed it off to the next totally different artist writer. And I knew that the jig was up because Palmiotti and Connor ended up together. So
okay.
What are the likelihoods there? So I mean, that's the only other experiment I can think of that was like that, where they took a real risk to do mismatchings.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'll throw that idea out there in the universe and let's see what happens.
Oh yeah, I like that a lot. All right, well, we ran out of time because we're having way too much fun, and that's the way that goes. You guys definitely need to go to your local comic shop and scoop up a White Savior copy. Even if you can't get the graphic novel, you can find the individual issues. Dark Horse, you can find it on the aisle, or they can probably order it up for you. And then follow Scott and Eric so you can know what they're going to be doing next. So that you can see, it sounds like they've got some funny projects in the work, and the Echelon sounds like that can't be funny, but maybe it is.
That one's not a straight up comedy. So yeah.
Where is the right place for people to follow you? Are you on social media as your name, or do you have some clever one?
So I've always been leading people to just follow White Savior Comic, but I'm the worst with social media, but I'm Scott Berman usually is where people find me if they ever do find me. So it's tricky. I think it's one of those you got to do it kind of things, and I never do it, but every now and then I do. So yes, I'm Scott Berman. Sure, if you find me, send me a message. The good thing about me is nobody sends me messages, so I'll probably see them.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for popping on.
Thank
you.
We
totally did it. I made it without making too many flubs, and you were amazing.
Every now and then I try. Every now and then. Thank you so much for having me over here.
I'm glad to have you on. It was awesome. All right, everybody. Thanks for being here for Talkin Shop. Next week, we'll have some more guests talking about things that you can find in your local comic shop. Support them, please. And stay tuned. The Experience, Comics and Collectibles, is up next. See you guys later.
Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere the Experience is all the time.